Hey guys, happy Monday night. Welcome to what we call Rob Loves Everything. I just got back from Destination D23 and wanted to do a recap and a haul with you guys. So thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. It's called the Park Adventurers Club. We do a lot of content. We have a park show every Sunday night at 8:30, and we also do a review show every Wednesday night called A Look on the Plus Side, and then we do content on Fridays. But tonight, I thought I would do a little show and tell from the Destination D23 that just happened in Orlando. So for those of you guys that don't know, the Destination D23 is an event that happens at Walt Disney World every other year, opposite from the D23 Expo. And so this one happened last weekend, Labor Day weekend, and my wife and I went down and we're lucky enough to get tickets to this thing. The funny thing is that the tickets go like the Expo one so fast, but it's a much smaller event. It's only a 2-day event as opposed to the Expo in California. It's a 3-day event. It's kind of a 3-day event. I'll talk about that in a second. But basically, it was going to be a whole week's worth of content. They had some Disney Springs, like discounts that you could get if you were D23 or if you were there for Destination D23. They also had a Goofy movie. The Goofy on the Road from D23 actually came into town on that Thursday. I did not get there for that one. We actually flew down into Orlando for Thursday night so we could start fresh on Friday at Destination D23. So, if you guys are in chat, definitely hit me up and let me know. I see TSN6899. I always feel like I get that wrong. But anyway, asking about popcorn buckets. I did get popcorn buckets. Thank you for asking. That was more of a Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party thing. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But So, again, I've been to the one in California, which is the D23 Expo, or it's now called D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan Event. It is a little bit different because it is in California. They do a lot more showcases. This one was originally, I think, more of like just a kind of a place to do like panels and talk about like the history of the company and things like that. So I think a lot of people were expecting big park announcements from this one. We did a show last night where we kind of recapped. If you check out our Park Adventurers Club from last night, where we recapped what went down as far as the parks went and kind of talked about that. And on that show, Patrick said, I don't know why people would go to D23, Destination D23. And, I would say, because it's fun. As a Disney fan, you get to really sort of immerse yourself with other Disney fans, and they share a lot of different things with you. It's not necessarily all about the reveals of the new attractions, although they've done that in the past. They didn't do it this time. Don't know why. So again, when we got there Thursday night. It was at Coronado Springs. In the past, it's always been at the Contemporary and their convention center, and this is the first time that it's been at Coronado Springs. Apparently, Coronado Springs is a much bigger venue, and so they were like, let's make it at a bigger venue. When tickets went on sale, they went so super fast. I know that a couple of our Park Adventurers Club folks had wanted to get tickets and couldn't, and it's just, there's such a anxiety about trying to get tickets to those things that you just kind of get freaked out a little bit. Like, am I going to be able to get in? Am I going to be able to give Disney my money? The way that it was broken down this year is you had the opportunity to get premier seating, preferred seating, or general seating, and the jump in price was huge from one to the next. So the general seating is where we were. I just felt like I wanted to be in the room where it happens, and so for general, they actually I and my buddy, our buddy Jake, is going to be jealous of this if he hasn't seen it already. Is that for General, Stitch was on the lanyards and all of the signage and everything for General. So it was Stitch was on this, and I think Panchito was on one. I can't remember who was on the third one, but anyway, so we had the General, and again, this was fine. When you checked in, they actually sent you the lanyard first. I mean the credential first, and they give you the lanyard when you check in. So we got a room at Coronado, stayed there Thursday night. Friday morning is when they sort of started with the shopping and those type of things. They sent you an email ahead of time and asked you if you wanted pins, and it was like a month ahead of time. They had what they call an RSP. They had 3 pin stores. There were only 2 of them I had any interest in, and I got way too many of those, and I'll probably just drop another video about the RSP process and how that works. But you had to pick up your pins on that Friday from the tables that they had set up for that one, and the lines were insane, and it just feels weird that you reserve pins, pay for them in advance, and then you have to queue up to get them afterwards. But they wanted to make sure you signed off on it and that everything you wanted was in there, and the pins were huge. And again, I got more than I feel like I should have gotten. So again, we'll probably drop something separately about that. So the day on Friday was about shopping. You were supposed to get an email that said, hey, we're going to reserve a time for you to shop, or you can reserve a time to shop. It went to spam for a lot of people, including myself. And so by the time I figured out that I had missed the email, the only time I could get was 3 p.m. for shopping. I think it started as early as 10 a.m. They would give you this... here, I'll move it to here. They would give you a band, and you would come back at your time, and they would queue you up in a room and have you check in, show your ID. It was very big time, and then they would give you a band, and then they would queue you up, and then when it was your time, that 3 to 4 window, they would let you loose, and as long as you had your band, you could go into one of the 3 rooms. So the 3 RSPs for pins and the 3 rooms were the same. It was Mickey's of Glendale, there was the Studio store, and then the Hollywood store, or Mickey's of Hollywood, I believe is what it was called. And so they had 3 different stores that you could go in, but we didn't get to go in until 3. So first thing you do is you go and you pick up your swag bag, which they don't do that at Expo. When you go to Expo, they give you a program, and they give you your lanyard, and then they give you your... like a bag to put stuff in. It's almost like a backpack bag, which is nice, but it's not as good as a swag bag. So this event is sponsored by Lug, and so they gave us this, which is this nice big old Lug bag. So that was pretty exciting to get. My wife was super excited about that. If you were in the different sections, Premier, Preferred, you got a black one or a houndstooth one. We got the gray one being in the general seating, which is fine because we got 2 years ago, Lug was also the sponsor, and they gave out backpacks. So that was kind of cool. So anyway, it was really neat to go in, get our swag bags, and then inside the bags, I did a picture of it on Twitter, but I want to kind of show you guys what's in this bag, and I'm not trying to show off or anything, and I think most of you guys are like me, that you like swag, you like stuff. So let me show you some of the stuff. So one of the things we got this pin from Destination D23. It has Mickey on it. The theme of this was a journey around the worlds of Disney, so everything kind of circled around that. We also got this little keychain from Disney Rewards. Now inside there was a card member pin voucher. So for that one, you had to know the voucher was inside this box. Then you had to take the voucher to the Disney Rewards booth, which was back around the stores. So they gave you your bag, and you had to take the card out of here and then take it back to the booth. And then you had to show your ID and your Disney Visa card, and they gave you a pin. Now the pin was very cool. It's this Stitch Destination D23 pin. So it wasn't in the swag bag with everything else, but it was the voucher was in here. It's so funny to me how many things you need to know and learn on the spot. You can't just like, it's not like Mickey's Not So Scary where everybody, all the influencers go the first night and then you kind of copy off their paper or they tell you what's different from the year before. It's always different. So we went in, we got our swag bag. It just happened to see that the voucher was in here. And then I would have been very upset had I missed getting that pin. So anyway, it was sort of in the bag, but not really. Then they also had this cool Chip 'n Dale patch. Which makes sense because it's a journey around the world. A lot of times when you travel, you do patches. That's kind of cool. They had this button for Halloween. It says the official fan club, Happy Halloween, because it is Halloween time, and it has Huey, Dewey, and Louie on it. And then it was also World Princess Week, so we got a button for World Princess Week. And then this is kind of funny. This was a hand sanitizer. And it says it glows in the dark. It's from Bath and Body Works, who did showcase some things while they were there. So it looks like Maleficent with it's just a little strange. We got a pin from Abbott Elementary, which was a little random. It says Ava Fest, which is what they had showcased at San Diego Comic-Con. They had Ava Fest, so I wondered if this was part of that. The day that the swag bag came out was August 29th, which was also the day that the new Lorcana came out. So they gave us a pack of Lorcana cards from Fabled, which was the new edition of Lorcana that came out. This was a little random. They gave us some Hulu shoestrings. So there's that. And then this little strap keychain as well. And that was all in the swag bag with a poster, which we were like excited. Oh, is this a print? It was a nice poster tube, and so we're like, oh, okay, this is probably something pretty fancy. It's really not so fancy. It's just promoting the new Phineas and Ferb show. So not that I don't love Phineas and Ferb, but we're expecting something like big time, and it was a Phineas and Ferb poster. I mean, again, it's not nothing, but all of this was in the bag. And if you think about the fact of, I think that the tickets for this were $200 to $300 for the general. I don't remember specifically how much. They've taken it down off the website, but for general, and then you get this nice bag, and then you get all this swag in there, and then you also get all of the panels and entertainment, and then of course on Saturday night they had the Cuscatopia. I'll talk about that in a second, but I feel like the value is there for this one, which is usually not something I would say about Disney. Now they're probably making a ton of money. Not probably, they're definitely making a ton of money off of me and a whole bunch of other people about pins and shopping. So again, to Patrick's point about like why does this thing even exist? It's really, again, an immersive 3-day experience or 2.5-day experience for a Disney fan. So that was Friday. So we took off on Friday, took off from work on Friday, flew in Thursday night, spent Friday during the day collecting our swag bag. We looked at the line for the pins, said no thank you. We couldn't shop yet, so we went to the parks. We went to Hollywood Studios for the morning, came back to Coronado, and then went to our shopping. So when we went in to do our shopping, they gave us a band. They gave us this bag, which this bag is nice, but this was not in any way going to hold the amount of stuff we were going to get. This looks like it basically hold a t-shirt. So it's a nice bag, so that's definitely something I would keep, but yeah, so they gave you that, they gave you your wristband, and then they queued you up in one of the conference rooms just in huge lines. They said they were queuing you up like Soren, because they would start the line at the front, send everybody to the back of the line, and then they would start a new line. And so when we would be released into the wild, we would go back through and go into one line into the next. So let me just show you guys like what we're talking about as far as like, again, Coronado Springs is a pretty big place, but these are, once you get in here, the lines were crazy. Now, this line that you're looking at right here at that South registration, this was to pick up the pins for the Hollywood store. So if you had reserved pins online, you couldn't buy them here. If you had reserved pins online ahead of time and paid for them ahead of time, then you came here with your email and your ID, and then they would get your bag from the back there, and they would go through it with you, and then they would you would get your pins. So that's a line that I didn't want to stand in that day. Seemed like a little bit much. There were signs everywhere to let you know where you needed to go. So as you can see here, you had the shopping spree check-in, which is where we went. There was the gift pickup, which I talked about. That was the swag bag. There was the Walt Disney Company store. There was Mickey's of Glendale, and then the Disney's Disney Hollywood. That's this other one. And then there was an ink and paint. So there were 4 stores, but the ink and paint, sorry if I'm talking very fast, but the ink and paint was really just kind of vendors. So Lug, who was the sponsor, they had a booth in there. Also Lorcana, who was a sponsor, or Ravensburger, had a booth in there. And then there were some other people who had booths and things in there. But just, again, to give you like a POV of what it was like to walk these halls. And this was on Friday. This is like, the thing hasn't started yet. So here's, that was one of the stores right there. And it was pretty crazy, pretty crowded. So we went in, got our swag from the pickup. And then we went to they had a little a display set up that was called Charting the Course, and it was like a little museum that they had. Here's also what the swag pickup looked like. So it was this is weird now that I'm looking at it. So it's Jose and it's Panchito, and then the last one was Stitch. Why wasn't it Donald? That seems like a no-brainer, right? Because the Three Caballeros was part of the theme of this. It was at Coronado, which has a loose Three Caballeros theme. So it's like, why wasn't it Donald? Now that I'm thinking about that, that's kind of nuts. Anyway, they had a booth called Charting the Course, which was sort of the Disney Archives brings a bunch of stuff for people to see, and they set up a room, and it was a walkthrough, and so you had to scan your badge. Even if you were a hotel guest, you couldn't get in. You had to scan your badge to get in, and it was only open during certain times. And when you would go through it, there was lots of displays that had to do with the theme of around the Disney worlds. So one of the things that was pretty cool that we got to see in there was they had, and I don't know how cool this is for everybody who's watching, but they had Joe Rohde's boots and his sketchbook. I don't know if that's a thing. Ronald says Rob needs a storage container to get enough merch. Yeah, as opposed to the bag. You're right. I definitely needed that. Although I will say, I did buy popcorn buckets. Totally admit that. Did we come back with too much stuff? Probably. But my wife, and when I show you some of the stuff we bought, my wife did buy more on the merch side, and she was really excited about the shopping too. She was like, when do we get to shop? Because these stores are pretty cool. It's stuff that's it's a little bit different. It's the Mickey's of Glendale is stuff that you would get from. It has like the Imagineering vibe to it, and then the studio store again, same sort of a thing. So it's pretty unique. Anyway, so this was like a little museum that you got to walk through, and one of the things too was the tapestry parade. If you guys remember that from Epcot, they had 2 of the puppets from that they had on display. So the Tapestry of Nations. So if you guys ever remember seeing that parade that came around World Showcase back in the day around the Millennium celebration, that was there. They also had this model of the Millennium Village, which is now like World Showplace. It still exists. It's over there. It takes up a couple plots right next to the UK of land, and they use it for special events usually. But they had that on display. They also had Mulan's costume from the live-action movie, and a little kind of a mock set, and her sword was there. So again, it was some park stuff, some movie stuff. They had original model of the Germany pavilion from Epcot. So again, sort of random actually, if you think about it. So, they were probably like, hey, Becky, who's the head of the Disney Archives, what kind of stuff do we have that we could call Worlds of Disney and put on display? And she's like, oh, well, I think we have the costumes for the Jungle Cruise movie with The Rock, and we can put that stuff in there. Again, it's neat for me to see this kind of stuff. I like it. But the biggest thing that I loved about this thing, and for those of you who are these huge park fans, I would say this maybe was the coolest thing in there. This is a little red. So if you guys remember doing Kilimanjaro safaris, and you would, back when it had a theme to it, when it had a story to it, Uh, then you would ride through, and you would find out that Little Red had been taken by poachers. And in the very end, you would run across a cast member that we were, that had the van, and Little Red was in it. And they said, Little Red is okay. Like, we say that all the time around our family, and it means it's just very strange, but we love Little Red. So it was really neat that they had Little Red in there. Took a lot of pictures with Little Red. As I'm flipping through looking at the pictures, there was a lot of Little Red. Anyway, so that was the exhibit, charting the course. And it wasn't big, but it was neat. It was neat to see this kind of stuff in person. So, like I said, we did go through and hang out. This is they had photo spots everywhere that you could do. And so this one was just the big map. But we went and got our bag. We did the charting the course. We decided not to stand in the pin lines. We went to the park. We came back. We did our shopping. So the shopping, like I said, we got the bag. We got the bands. And so we went in the first store. And the first store was Mickey's of Glendale. And it was crazy long, the line. We waited in line to then wait in line. So I'm trying to see if I could find you a good picture of the line. But this was the room the Mickey's of Glendale is in. And if you could see in the back here, this was the queue to get in. So you had to go do these switchbacks, and then you would finally get into this room and you would do your shopping. So the Mickey's of Glendale one is the one that if you saw it online, you saw that they had like Muppet Studio Store stuff. I'll show you some of that stuff here. So we didn't buy any of the Muppet stuff. Or actually, we did buy one of the things, but not this thing. So this was a shirt. They had a hat. Some of the stuff they had at D23 in California, but they had Imagineering stuff. This was a series that they had, which was the Subway series. So it makes it look like the New York Subway, and it said Destination Adventure. So I like that one. And then there was... I was trying to see if there was other stuff that I had pictures of on that one, but they had a castle series too. So castles from around the worlds of Disney. It's kind of neat. But let me show you what we ended up buying. So in this shop, which again is the Mickey's of Glendale shop, I'll show you like I said, it's part of it is Imagineering stuff. So my wife bought this shirt, which is a Walt Disney Imagineering shirt, kind of cool. Just says Imagineering. It's pretty simple. And then on the back it has a Mickey Mouse on the back. Then I got this. This was that Subway series. So it's says Destination Adventure, and it says DL 55 Magic Kingdom, so Disneyland 55, Magic Kingdom 71, Tokyo Disneyland 83, Disneyland Paris 92, and Shanghai in 2016. And then on the back it has what looks like a Subway map, but it's really like a Peter Pan ship. At least maybe that's an ink blot. Maybe I don't. Maybe that's we all see our own thing. The other thing I got was this one, which is kind of like that castle picture I was showing you. So it's just all the castles from around the worlds of Disney. And so that was cute. But I mentioned that we got a Muppet thing. My wife got this, which I kind of love this. This is a sweatshirt that showcases the opening scene of the Muppet Show with all the Muppets in there. And I thought about this one, but I think this is going to be a better thing for her. So that was pretty exciting. I'm looking at the Dumbo of Animal Kingdom. Oh, Fire Chief talking about Little Red. All Muppets, Care Bear says. I see park construction walls. I was going through pictures, so probably maybe that's what you saw. But let me go back to like this Muppets. They had a neat display with the Muppets. Let me go back here. So this was the display they had set up. So they have everything sectioned off. There was Muppets, and then the Castle Collection, and then they had there's the Muppet Collection. They had some Muppet pins. They had some villain stuff. They had some puzzles. They had these stickers which were kind of cool, and they were like water bottle stickers, I guess, and they were representing each of the castles of the different castles around the world. And then this was the Imagineering section. They had some like pins and things. And you can see people like frantically trying things on. And then they had this. This is the Haunted Mansion parlor from. This was a woman going through stuff, but this is the Haunted Mansion parlor stuff. And while I'm excited about Haunted Mansion, I've never been to the Haunted Mansion parlor. So since that's on the cruise ship, I was like, I'm not really sure I want to do that. So that's the stuff we bought in that shop. We did buy like some of those stickers for our kids, and then then we went out into the next thing, and we thought this was going to be the store we bought the most stuff in. So then the next store was that the Hollywood store, and I just didn't like the stuff in here. It looks very AI, Disney snacks, generic maybe. There was nobody in this store when we got in there, and so we like probably didn't even have to wait. But and again, you guys might like this. Everybody has different tastes, but we were just not impressed with this stuff. And we walked around it and then went, well, we've seen that. And we literally didn't buy anything here. We didn't buy any of the pins from this store. So, yeah. And then I had my picture taken in that ink and paint when we went in there in front of the Lorcana stuff. And my wife staged me. She says she didn't, but she staged me in such a way that it looks like Minnie's trying to kiss me on the head. I don't know. I'm still in trouble for this, and I don't know why. But the Lorcana section was pretty cool. That they had puzzles, because Ravensburger does. I'm going to say it differently every time. Ravensburger does puzzles. So they had Lorcana puzzles. That was kind of a neat thing. They're expensive puzzles, but they had puzzles. And so this was the room that had the vendors in it. So it was Lorcana, it was Lug. If you've seen these bags in the parks, they've kind of debuted 2 years ago when Lug first sponsored the Destination D23 that was at the Contemporary. They showed off these bags at that time. Since then, there's been a bunch of them. I know my wife has one of them and really likes the size of it. They also, for some reason, you had to be a gold member to buy the tickets, I think, originally. And so then they were showcasing the gold member like gifts, which seems weird because I feel like we had already all kind of bought into this. But I guess they were reminding you that you could then go in and, plus yourself out. So that was really it. We went through that shop, and then we went into the final shop, which was the studio store. And the studio store had a lot of, pardon me for dipping, but there's a lot more from this store that they had than the other stores that we liked, and we kind of went a little nuts in this store. So so they had a lot of stuff that was Destination D23 specific. You don't always see this kind of stuff at Expo, and I think that was one of the complaints about Expo merchandise last year. So like shirts like this with like Chip and Dale on them, that was kind of cute. So it's around the world of Disney, just on the front, nothing on the back. That was kind of nice. There was a similar one with the three Caballeros on it, and it says Destination D23. So that one was pretty cool. And that's the one that both of us got. So I got that one, and she got that one. This is one that she got that was part of the studio store. That's just a sweatshirt. It has that Mickey patch on it. Right there. So that was pretty cool. She said when I show off this stuff tonight that everybody's going to be jealous that her stuff's better than my stuff. They also had this shirt because Goofy and Max, that was a big part of this particular Destination D23. They did a lot of the 1990s, 2000s Disney stuff. So we got that shirt. I got this studio. Now that I have most of this stuff done here. I got this studio, it's like almost like a t-shirt material, but it's like a hoodie, and it has the studio store in Burbank. So again, like I love stuff like this that was very unique to this place that I've never seen before. And then she got this for Destination. So Three Caballeros sweatshirt, which I think is pretty cool. It's embroidered on the front, has Destination D23 in here. It has the Three Caballeros up here. Like I said, they were a big part of it. Goofy and Max were a big part of it. So it was neat to see all of this merch available. So we went crazy in that last store and bought all that stuff. And again, I kind of justify the popcorn bucket a little bit because I didn't go as nuts as she did in the stores, but I love that she gets excited about that kind of stuff. So yeah. One of the next things so that was really all you were doing that day is you were checking in, you were getting your bag, you were going through and shopping, picking up your pins. And then that night there was an optional event, which was Mickey's Not So Scary. Now there just happened to be a Mickey's Not So Scary. And Disney was like, hey, you should buy one. It's kind of like part of Destination D23. And I was like, yeah, sure, Disney. You never get enough of my money. Please, let's buy into this. So my wife and I then went over to Magic Kingdom, and we did the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party that night. And that is where I got this fella. So I did get the Mare Sipper, which is ridiculous, right? That's crazy. It has the two heads. I have to tell you that the cast members did not know where this existed. The Jack popcorn bucket, which is amazing. The Jack popcorn bucket, which again, my wife always makes fun of the fact, like, how much popcorn are you going to really put in there? The Jack popcorn bucket was everywhere. Everybody had these. You could see them all over the parks. But the Mare Sipper you couldn't really find anywhere. And so even the cast members didn't know where they were. I went to a booth while we were waiting to see the parade. I went to a booth, the popcorn cart, if you know it, in Liberty Square. And I said, hey, do you know where I could get the Mare Sipper? And they said, oh, yeah, they're at Sleepy Hollow. So I go over to Sleepy Hollow, wait in line, get up to the front. I said, hey, do you guys have the Mare Sipper? And they said, no, we don't carry that here. It's at Pinocchio's Village House. Okay, so I get into, I go back and check in with my wife, and I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to worry about that Sipper. And she's like, well, we got time for the parade. I'll stay here, and you can go and see if you can get the Sipper. So I go to Pinocchio's Village House, and it's closed. And there's a guy there that barely speaks English, and he ends up telling me that it's over at the Friar's Nook. And I'm like, well, I've come this far, and I go over to the Friar's Nook, and that's where it was. So it was just one of those nights where you're like, really, Disney? It's a small party. You only have a couple of these things. Maybe you should tell everybody where they can grab this stuff. If you've never been to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, it's a completely different topic, I think, that we could talk about sometime. But there's character greetings. There's a couple of ride overlays. They do some neat things around, like, say, the Haunted Mansion, where they have this woman hanging out in the graveyard. She was great. She was awesome doing the improv thing and being spooky. They do different lighting effects in the park while you're there. They have all kinds of shows during the night. They've got the Cadaver Dans. They've got the Hocus Pocus show. They've got the fireworks show, or the fireworks, and then they do Mickey's Boo to You parade, which is one of my favorite parades. And I will fight our friends from Disneyland who say Frightfully Fun is a better parade than Boo to You, because I just love Boo to You. It's one of the classics. It's one of my favorites. So that's what we did Friday night. And then Saturday morning, we got up early, which is crazy, this schedule you do, because we were up late because we got delayed getting into Orlando on Thursday night. Then we had to get up early Friday to go and check in. Then we go into the parks, do the party, which ends at like midnight. And then get back to the room about 1, and then we've got to start queuing up because the first panels start at 9 o'clock. You have to go queue up the next morning to go into Destination D23. So this was the panel day. This is Saturday. This is the first day that we actually get panels. There's all these signs of which way that you need to head to get to certain things, whether you're going to shop. And by the way, if you were not able to get a ticket to Destination D23, you could still buy a shopping ticket. And I think people did this. It was $15 for the ability to come in the next day, Saturday, queue up the same way we did, get a window, and then shop so you could buy some of the stuff that was there. That's why I felt not so bad about the 4 o'clock window that I had, is that they would let us be able to shop later, but we knew that they needed more merch for the next day, so we knew that there would still be stuff left. I don't think that anything sold out that I was hoping to get. So again, people came in this day, and they had to keep them separated because the anybody else think of The Offspring and keep them separated? They had to keep them separated and put the people who didn't have like access to the panels had to be separated from they were just shopping, had to be separated from people who were doing the panels, and so they had security to make sure you didn't go too far down any particular hallway. So there was a sign where you had to enter out through the front through the presentation queues to get into queue, and by the time we got there for the queue, it was like 8:30, and honestly, they had already started letting people in, which was great. They did have this Joffrey's Haunted Mansion truck outside, which I thought was pretty cool, so that if you wanted to get some coffee before you went in, you could, but also it was a neat looking truck. And then, like I said, we sort of, by the time we got there, we walked straight in. But you can see the switchback tape on the ground. So they were either they had a bunch of people or expecting a bunch of people, because the general admission, like I mentioned before, was literally that. It was just general admission. So if you wanted to get general seating, and you wanted to get good seating, you could get right up there next to that premiere if you were there early enough. We did not. We actually sat back. You can see my cursor here. We actually sat back in here behind the preferred seating by the time we got there, but it was a fine seat. They had screens all over the place when you get in there. So again, it's really about being in the room where it happens. And some of this stuff was streamed, so that if you were a gold member, you could stream this at home. But for the most part, it was not like the morning stuff was not streamed, where they did the studio presentations where they showed footage and things like that. So this is where we spent our day on Friday and on Saturday. I mean, on Saturday and on Sunday, is we spent our day in this room. And so you can see the security guards up there to keep the riffraff out of the preferred area. Care Bears of the Offspring popped into red too. Yeah, it'll happen. It'll get you. My last name is Whiteside, and people can't help but sing The Killer's Bright Side sometimes. It happens. Now, hopefully, that'll be stuck in your head. So we would sit in this seat in this place all day, and it's very similar to the way San Diego Comic-Con is set up, in the fact that you get into the room, you sit in your seat, and then if people leave, sometimes you can move up. We did not. We were like, wherever we were, we felt like we would just camp out there and that our seats were fine. So we did sit there until there was a lunch break. At lunch, you could go and eat anywhere in Coronado that they had available. Now, some of the, the fine dining restaurants weren't open, but Three Bridges was open for the day, where you could mobile order, and I did, and then go to Three Bridges and sit there and eat out there. So we did that, and it ended up working out fine that day. And then the next day we went to the Coronado Food Court to eat. So the food options were fine for the way this was set up. They had signage and banners and things to make you feel like you were in their Stitch's ship, but to make you feel like you were in someplace different, someplace special. I like that they kind of took the extra steps to do that. There were a lot of these like photo spots set up. So they had this one, again, it was about travel and destinations around the world of Disney. So they had this one. They had one set up for the Tron Light Cycle. They had one set up for Toy Story, because it's the 30th anniversary of Toy Story. And then when the panels started for the morning, they had Susan Egan, who was the voice. She was originally the first Belle on Broadway. Then she was the voice of Megara. They had her, and they kind of sang a medley to open up the panel. So that was kind of fun. And then because it was Princess Week, they brought out all the princesses on stage. I feel like it was maybe Patrick that was like, "Why is Raya there?" But yeah, they have all the princesses you can see, from Rapunzel on the left all the way down to Jasmine on the right. So that was kind of a neat thing to see and get you all jazzed up for the day. And so they had these Broadway singers, including Susan Egan, who was from Broadway. The man on the far right was from the touring company of Hercules before it went to the West End. The other two, I'm not really sure, but they were good singers. And then they brought out Jodie Benson, who's the voice of The Little Mermaid and Barbie and Weibo, and she came out and they presented her as the Disney fan ambassador for D23. So, which she kind of is anyway. She shows up at all the events, and it's great to see her, and she just loves Disney, and it's really exciting to be in the same room with the voice of Ariel. And she seems so humble and so, touched by the fan reactions all the time. So, I like Jodie Benson a lot. I like Susan Egan a lot. I think she's fun. So then they announced the studio panel, and the studio panel was one of the coolest ones, I think. And it was right there in that morning. They brought out the characters from Toy Story. They talked about the 30th anniversary of Toy Story, which means they're going to re-release Toy Story 2 theaters on September 12th. And then they're also going to have the trailer, I believe, or a teaser trailer for Toy Story 5 on the front of that. And then Yvette Nicole Brown came out, and she was the host for the entire morning for the panel. They talked about Toy Story. They talked about Pixar's Hoppers, which is their next movie, and they brought out drunk uncle himself, Bobby Moynihan. He is going to be the King Gopher in that, and so he had a little gopher hat on. He came out and talked for a little bit. And then they talked a little bit about the lineup for the movies that are coming out. So we've got Hoppers and Toy Story are coming out next year. Gato is coming out in 2027. And then Incredibles and Coco 2028 and beyond. Coco 2 and Incredibles 3. The Coco 2, the movie you didn't ask for. Coco was kind of a perfect movie unto itself. So I don't know how they're going to do Coco 2. I guess Miguel goes back. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Next thing they talked about was Tron, and this is one of those areas where they talked about the DVD releases that they're doing, special editions for Tron and Tron Legacy, which I'm all about because I love this. I love this IP. But then they kind of like surprised us here, where they made a park announcement, and they talked about the fact that Tron is getting an overlay, which we talked about on our show last night. So I won't talk about that really much anymore. I just hope it's really cool with music from Nine Inch Nails. Then they talked about Mando and Grogu a little bit, but instead of bringing out like actors, they brought out the BDX droids, which they're cute. I like that. I've never really seen them in person other than on a stage at one of these things. So it was neat to see them. And they talked about Mandalorian and Grogu and how there was going to be, that new overlay on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. And then they talked about Predator Badlands, and they showed a little bit of a trailer of Predator Badlands. I'm not a huge Predator guy, but I appreciate the IP. And then they talked about Avatar Fire and Ash. We saw some footage of each of these things. That was pretty cool. And then they talked about the new Ice Age movie, which I'm surprised they're doing another Ice Age movie, but they are. Boiling Point, which is going to be the 6th movie in that. And then they talked about Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the Christmas special that is coming up on Disney+. And then they talked about Zootopia 2, showed some footage. Announced Hexed, which is a new Disney movie that's going to be coming in fall of 2026 from Disney and not Pixar. That was interesting. And then the fun part was they showed some footage of the new mayor from Zootopia 2 and brought out Mr. Patrick Warburton. Nice work, pal. It was really neat to see him there. They obviously brought him back out when they talked about Kronk later and The Emperor's New Groove. Just a cool guy, it's just the voice. And he's one of those, just like Jodie Benson, who loves that he is part of the Disney family. He thinks, he's out there talking to the director and talking about his part. And it's just, in it, he plays a former, I don't think this is spoilers, really, but in this movie, he plays a horse who was a former actor who is now the new mayor of Zootopia, and the horse was the head of an action franchise called The Naysayer. You'll get it. And then they brought out these characters. So they brought out the new Clawhauser walk around character and the Judy and Nick that are going to be in their new clothes from Zootopia 2 when you see them in the parks. So that was the studio's panel, and it was really neat. Again, with Hoppers, they showed so much footage, and when they do footage, they say, please put your cameras down. The very first D23 Expo in California I went to, they took away your devices because they didn't want you recording anything. And now they just go, you know what, be cool, man. They have people pacing around, making sure you don't do things. But that's one that wasn't streamed. It was just that information for the people who are in the room, and you can't, take anything. You can't take pictures or video, etc. Then they introduced the Gold Theater live stream, which I think the rest of the afternoon was probably live streamed. But that was the head of D23 was there. He was talking about all the cool things they're doing. They did a road show of the Goofy movie, which is where it ended in Florida for D23 week. Next year, they're going to do Home Alone 35th anniversary on the road. So if you live in one of the towns, I don't know what those towns are, where they're going to have this movie, that's going to be cool. Then they announced the D23 Expo for 2026, and they had Mickey out here, and they had some technical difficulties. Believe it or not, Disney had some technical difficulties. Now, they're setting this whole thing up in the Coronado Springs conference rooms that is not set for, all the stage show that they're doing. And it was amazing. It was really well done. You saw from the screens and everything else. So I'm not shocked that there were a little bit of a problem here and there. But they announced the fan event for the Ultimate Disney Fan Event, D23, for 2026 is going to be in August of 2026. So that's going to be my next anxiety, is to try to get tickets to that one. It's such a good time, but it gets more and more expensive and harder to get through every year. So, we'll see how that goes. Then they did the Three Caballeros, and they broke this in. This was a presentation from the archives, and they broke it into 3 different panels during the 2 days. And so it was just, they kind of came out and they talked a little bit about the history and Walt's involvement in South America. So that was interesting. Then they had X Antencio, who, if you know, was an Imagineer who wrote the lyrics to Yo-Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me. And many other things, including some of the early concepts for Figment and the Dreamfinder, and so there's a new book about him, and so they came out and kind of talked a little bit about Ex Intencio, which is again why I love going to these things. You go and you kind of learn something about Disney history, or if you know something about it, maybe you learn something more. You never kind of walk away without learning something from this, so it's pretty exciting to do. And then because it was around the worlds of Disney, they talked about different countries and how they were related to Disney. So Disney in India, they talked a little bit about the influences, talked about Jungle Book and a couple other things that were, what are the ties to India. And on these things, you could take pictures if you want to, but look at the graphics up there. These graphics for those poles were made just for this. That was kind of cool. And then the archives, they show some of the original pieces from the archives while they're doing it. So Becky Klein is the head of the archives. She's great. My wife loves her. She took over for Dave Smith after he retired, and he has since passed away. Then they moved on to Disney on Broadway, which just, I think, celebrated 30 years. And they talked a little bit. Susan Egan talked about her role. She sang a little bit of a song. She sang a song. And then they brought out the second genie. I believe he was the second genie, who was Michael James Scott. And he sang a little bit, which, again, some of this artwork while you're there, it's just really well done. The presentation was amazing. And then after he sang, they brought out this guy, which was so funny because this is the guy, Danny Gardner, I believe is his name. He is on tour with Beauty and the Beast. They're touring this show again. So he's on tour with it. He's Lumiere. They brought him in. They just had him Be Our Guest. And then he left. And then 4 nights ago, my wife and I saw in Durham, North Carolina, him performing for Be Our Guest. So they flew him out just for this, which is kind of crazy. But, they kind of, the two of them were welcoming him into the Disney on Broadway family. They're calling him cousin. He's part of their Ohana. They leaned into all of that. He went backstage. He changed into his this suit, which is not what he wears in the musical. So you can see, I don't know why specifically that, but yeah. So then we went, and this was all before lunch, and then we went and picked up lunch. Here's what I had at Three Rivers. I had these amazing wings. So we ran over, got some food, and then we came back, and I went to pick up my pins. So they were supposed to be picked up on Friday. Then they said you could still pick them up Saturday and Sunday, but if you didn't pick them up by end of day on Sunday, they were going to just, I guess, sell them to somebody else, give them back. I don't know what they're going to do, but you wouldn't get them. So I thought, okay, the line for this is kind of short. Before the next panel starts, I'll just go in, and it wasn't. Like it was like a Disney misdirect. The room this was me getting a donut. That's completely, we don't need to know about that. But here's the queue was outside, and I thought, okay, that's no big deal. I'll just go in and pick them up. And then inside there was a whole nother queue. So Yeah, pay no attention to that donut. That is certainly, if Mike were to watch, he would be upset with me for eating that many carbs. But I was missing the Phineas and Ferb panel on that one. So Swampy Marsh and Dan Povenmire were being interviewed by one of the Disney ambassadors. They came out and he asked them trivia questions while they drew some of their favorite characters. And that was kind of fun. I love the vibe of Phineas and Ferb. I don't watch it all the time. There's, it has returned to Disney, so there are new seasons. I think it's season 5 that is out now. They brought Perry out, or Agent P out, to meet up with the gang, and Dan Povenmire again, same thing as Patrick Warburton, as Jodie Benson. It just seems like so happy to be part of the Disney family. Then they did this thing about D23 animated classics, where they brought out the directors of all of these films, like Treasure Planet and Tarzan and Atlantis, and talked about the movies. And then it was really neat hearing their stories about it. And then they kind of, this was kind of funny. They kind of teased that they had to wrap it up with a musical number, and they talked about Trash in the Camp. And I leaned over to my wife and I was like, Joey Fatone and Friends is over at Epcot tonight. I wonder if they're going to haul out Joey Fatone, since it was NSYNC that was Trash in the Camp, or singing the post song, and they did. So so Joey Fatone was there, and he sang with Michael James Scott. They did like the crisscross dance and the whole bit. They sang the song together. And it was really cool. It was really cool to see. I love those little surprises that they do when they bring that stuff out. The next thing they did was they talked about Disney and the book that Don Hahn has written about the happiest place on earth. And so it was called Creating the Happiest Place on Earth, and they kind of talked about different pieces of it. And then they brought out one of the Imagineers to talk about the fact that a Walt animatronic that is at Disneyland, that they were going to be bringing that to the Carousel of Progress. So they talked about how that there are these original attractions from the 1964 World's Fair that exist at Disneyland, and there's one that exists at Disney World, and they're going to give it this new treatment. So again, we talked about this on the show last night, is how they opened up a couple of these park announcements during Destination D23. So again, if you go back and watch our show last night, Stephanie and Patrick and I kind of talked through all of that stuff. But one of the things that I think maybe I mentioned on the show last night was that they had a Disney Eats panel, which I thought was really fun. This was one of the second to the last panel of the day on Saturday. They gave everybody in the audience a box of that Starlight mix that they have at the Magic Kingdom for the new Starlight parade. And so everybody got a box of that. They had the Smelitzers pushing the smell of popcorn out into the audience, which was kind of fun. They brought out this guy from the Try Guys to host it. And he talked about, Disney snacks from around the world and what everybody's favorites were. They had a band. The band that plays at Jollywood was there. And so again, these are our seats for that. We had moved by this point when we got back in the afternoon. And it was really, again, a neat panel. One of the things they brought out, which I was very excited about, was they brought out the new Jack Skellington, and I had not seen him in person yet. So I love the upgrade they've done here. I've talked about that on our other shows. I think he's really cool. The box they had there felt a lot like the box, if you guys went to Jollywood Nights at all, where they had like the lock, shock, and barrel mask that they pull out of the box. At the What's This Sing-Along. I feel like they just kind of were like, hey, we got that box from the sing-along, let's bring that out. And that was pretty cool. And then they talked a little bit about food on the Disney Destiny. They talked about the drinks on the Disney Destiny. And of course, they talked about popcorn buckets, which I was all about. My wife said, maybe you should leave the room. This might be too much for you. So again, these are things that I talked about last night on the show, but I just wanted to show again this Mickey Christmas truck, this Christmas tree truck. This is definitely one that I'm going to have at some point. Fire Chief said much better Jack. Yeah, the other Jack, he had the mask up to here, and then from here down was just like makeup, and it just looked weird, and it made it so he could talk, but at the same time it just kind of looked weird. I wish they could do something. A smart woman you married to leave the room. Yeah, she did suggest I leave the room. I didn't do it. And now I need all of this plastic. They made a bunch of other announcements about different foods and things from around Disney, and then again, the popcorn buckets and the tikis were a big announcement. They announced some foods coming, like the drinks to the Disney Destiny. And then the next thing that they came out with was Don Hahn came out to talk about The Emperor's New Groove. So he was the director, and then Patrick Warburton's out there who played Kronk, and they talked a little bit. But my wife and I joked about this. It seemed like they were completely off script. They were just having a good time. Don Hahn is my new favorite. He is so funny. He comes out. He knows so much about the Disney company. He's so well spoken. He comes out and he just is entertaining. He could just tell you about any of these stories, and you're just there to listen. And he was at the last one in 2023. The last Destination D23, and I'm sure he was at D23 Expo doing some stuff too, but it was just really neat. He came out and kind of interviewed and had a conversation with Patrick Warburton. I kind of wish that maybe David Spade had shown up for this one, but it was just Patrick Warburton, which if I have to choose, it's always going to be Patrick Warburton. They showed on the screen the rest of the cast, Wendy Malick and John Goodman and Eartha Kitt, who Eartha Kitt has since passed away. They made a comment about Sting, which was very funny because Sting was famously frustrated by this movie as it changed through the years. And then Michael James Scott, they just kept bringing this man out, and he came out and he did the Cusco song that Tom Jones sang in the in the first movies, or in the movie. So like that whole, what's his name? So yeah. Then we went to Typhoon Lagoon that night. So there was a very limited amount of time in between those panels and this Cuscotopia that they had. And I kind of built up Cuscotopia in my mind. And again, like the shopping, there were a limited amount of tickets that people could buy. If they wanted to buy tickets to go in and do Cuscotopia, but you weren't able to get into Destination, you could do that. So they had a limited amount. Those were obviously, again, sold out. But the panels ended late that day, so it was almost like 6 o'clock, and then Cuscotopia started at 8 o'clock over at Typhoon Lagoon. It was like 8 to 11. It was a fairly small window. It was smaller than you would find for H2O Glow Nights. So we headed over there, got stuck in traffic, so we really didn't get in there until like about 8:30. But this is kind of like I was talking about before. It's like you don't really know what you're doing when you walk into something like this, and so you kind of have to learn as you get there because they're very vague about what it is. They said there would be a gift. They said there would be characters, a DJ, treats, and so you kind of got to walk through and figure out where those things are as you get in, and you can ask people, and they'll usually point you in the right direction. The gift that they gave us was actually a pretty cool gift. It was this... it was one of these waterproof wallets for your phone, so that you could put your phone in here. It actually says, it was from Disney Rewards. It says Cuscotopia on the top, night at Typhoon Lagoon. So, again, it was very useful. We popped it open. Normally I like to keep things in the package, but also I don't want my phone to get ruined, and it was nice to be able to get that and throw it around your neck and walk through. So that was the gift that we were gifted that night. The other thing that was happening is they had this, which was Exotic Bird Bingo as part of Cuscotopia. And they gave you these cards, and you would go around and you would find they had different birds like signs in places. I'll pull one up for you that I took a picture of because, I've got a picture of everything. So you would walk around and you would find this, the sign with the bird on it. This one was like, back in the caves that go underneath the wave pool. And so I thought maybe you would get something extra from this, but if you finished it, you would give it to the DJ and he would say your name. I don't know. It was just another little thing that you could do that night was to do the Exotic Bird Bingo. But again, you only had 3 hours to experience everything Typhoon Lagoon has. And they had character meet and greets over on one side, which were Donald and Goofy and Mickey and Minnie. And those were over to one side of the park. And then, or any of them came out on stage, they would literally usher them out on the stage. They would do their dance thing, and then they would leave. So you weren't really posing for pictures with Kronk and the Emperor, and it probably would have been pretty crazy if you were able to do that. But again, these are very rare characters. The Cusco was awesome, like just working it. It was a lot of fun to see him out there. But what was really cool to me is that we were getting food, and we were on one side of the restaurant, and my wife said, "Oh, I heard there's going to be something happening." They had all these people dressed up in that were like, Disney executives over here, and they were guarding something, and we didn't know like what they were guarding. So my wife was like, "Oh, you gotta stay over there and wait and see what happens." And so I stayed here. She went with the food onto the other side, and then what had happened was Kronk came out. And so we had already seen Cusco. We saw Kronk come out. That was kind of fun. But he was coming out, and it took him a while to come out. And then what I found out later was Patrick Warburton was backstage there with him, and they shot a little video of him with Kronk before the thing, and that's why he was back there. But the place that my wife went on the other side of where she went to sit was right where Patrick Warburton's family was loading in the backstage area. And so we got to see Patrick Warburton walking in to his little kind of private area where he and his family were hanging out. So that was kind of cool. So we got to see Kronk on one side and Kronk on the other side. It was kind of neat. Again, I would love to hang out with Patrick Warburton. He just seems like he is an awesome guy, and again, really looks like the kind of guy who appreciates where his part in the Disney company, whether it's with Soarin' or Star Tours or Kronk or whatever. So there was the bingo, there were the characters on stage with the DJ, there was the meet and greets, and then they also had your traditional late night free ice cream, free popcorn, free sodas while you were there at the event. And then they also did have food that you could purchase. This was the area where they had the cabanas. Normally these are those like beachcomber shacks, but instead they had them each as character meet and greet areas for the Fab Four in this case. I don't think that Pluto was over there, but it was everybody else. But that was Cuscotopia, and again, it was really well themed. They had signage everywhere. They had the birds and the bingo and the snacks, and the rides were open. And we did Misadventure Falls, even though the animatronic bird was behind a screen and you couldn't see him. So we got to do all that. Also, they had Mary Oceaneer, like a walk around character from C, was actually there. And there was a line, because we're talking about like hardcore Disney fans. There was a line to be able to go and meet her. So I did not get in that line to get my picture taken with her. This was the DJ who was keeping the night moving all night long. But yeah, that was fun. Also, here's me and the missus. That shirt that I'm wearing there, and you can't really see it, is it was the 5K shirt that I got from the virtual 5K that I did, that I just completed a little while ago, that I bought in 2020 and finally was able to do it, and then felt like I earned the shirt, and it had Yzma and Kronk on it. So worked out pretty well to be like the shirt that I wore to Cuscotopia. So you can see a little bit more of it here, maybe. I don't know. So then there were some backdrops for pictures, and then we took off for the night, and that was the thing. So again, you're there late at night, 11 o'clock. Get back at 12:30, and then you got to hit the ground running again the next morning. We went back in, and the first panel was the Villains panel, and I thought, big time, this is gonna be great. This is where they're gonna talk about Villains Land, and they didn't. They did a great Broadway number. They had this really cool these chairs that were set up on stage, very like gothic looking chairs. They had this girl come out who was from Challenge Accepted, and then she came out and talked about Villains Land and this conjured architecture, which was the only thing they really talked about the Villains themed land, was the conjured architecture. And then they talked a little bit about some of the stuff from the Disney Destiny, which include the Shadow Man's Parlor, which is going to be kind of cool. I'm all about that from the Disney Destiny. They talked about Cruella de Vil is going to have her own little restaurant or bar. And then they did a bit where Jodie Benson came out and talked to the director of Little Mermaid with Ron Clements, who is the director. She just was so thankful for him and the things, giving her the opportunities that she had to be the Little Mermaid. She was in a very short run Howard Ashman, Alan Menken musical called Smile. If you've never watched the Howard Ashman documentary, you should. And then they let the cast members audition for the Little Mermaid, and she got the part, and it was pretty exciting. Then they went back and did another Three Caballeros bit, and then they brought out Roy's great-grandnephew. I think that's how you would say it. So it was Walt's brother is Roy O. Disney, and then there was Roy E. Disney, and then this is Roy E. Disney's son, Roy Patrick Disney. And he came out, and that was, again, a very neat thing. Becky Klein from the archives interviewed him. He talked about being there on opening day, and the day that it was dedicated, not the day that was opening day, which was October 25th, 1971. And so he had they showed his ticket from that, and talking about his grandfather making the speech. Then they went, and the Disney Archives came back, and they talked about going down the rabbit hole, which was, this is something they did last year, which was pretty neat, where they kind of talk about when they're in the archives and they find this, and this leads them to that, and that leads them to the other thing, and that was kind of fun. But when that was over, we had our lunch break. We went and ate, just like I said, in the food court, and I got some of this delicious Disney pizza, which they put a garlic knot on top of, like bread on bread. Sure, why not? We walked around the stuff. I talked about the studio store a little bit earlier, where we got all this merchandise. We actually dipped back into the studio store to look around a little bit more, but they had some really cool stuff in here. The Stitch thing, by the way, if you can see this here, the Stitch shirt is is a tank top. I can't pull off a tank top, so I did not partake in that one. But then back in the ink and paint, they had these socks in an ABC can, like Hi Dad Soup from Goofy. So again, these are things that I don't know if everybody got a chance to see, but I'm sure you guys looked on social and saw some of the stuff, but I just wanted to run through some of this with you. They did a throwback trivia while the lunch break was ending, where Ashley Eckstein, who is the voice of Ahsoka Tano and also the creator of her universe, came out and did the throwback trivia with these folks. Then they did a Stay Tuned, You're Watching Disney Channel panel, which was pretty interesting because they brought out some of the folks from Good Luck Charlie, like Jason Dolly and the girl that played Charlie. And then they brought out some of the newer Disney Channel folks, like the girl from Raven's Home and one from the Wizards Beyond Waverly Place. And it was really interesting to hear them all talk. And then one of the people from High School Musical was there. So that was just a neat thing. And again, it's just another piece of this Destination D23 where it's kind of like all the things that have to do with Disney, and not just the parks and not just the movies, but the Disney Channel and Star Wars, and just, it's a really neat mix of stuff, and it's so much. And you really get inundated in a short amount of time with a lot of Disney stuff, which I freaking love. So then they brought out Imagineers to talk about Beyond the Spires and creating the castles of Disney. And there was some really neat stories, and one of them that I thought was interesting was that they said they had 7 castles at Disney World. And of course you're going like, what 7 castles do they have? And they count 2 of these from the Fantasia Golf and the Winter Summerland as 2 of the castles. Prince Eric's, the one on the Beast Castle on top of Be Our Guest. The main castle, I think this is Akershus here, and then in China. So they have, is that China or is that Japan? I think that's Japan. Never mind, withdrawn. So they showed all these different castles here, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And they talked about World of Frozen is in Paris, is opening in 2026, because of course they had the castle topping that they did for Elsa's palace. They talked about all of the mistaken, crazy overlays that they've done over the years with the Cinderella castle, or castles around the world, including this Stitch one. And they had Stitch come out and kind of like crash the party, and they had like this weird machine that was pitching out toilet paper, and it was just all over the place. That was pretty fun. And so this is the part where they talked about Cinderella Castle being redone in its original color palette, and everybody loved that and was happy. And then they did a 30 years of a Goofy movie, and they brought out the director, and they brought out Bill Farmer and Jason Marsden to talk a little bit about their experience with the original Goofy movie, and that was really neat hearing them talk about making it. And obviously there is a documentary that is on Disney Plus, which I get a half a second in. If you guys watch that documentary, a show that we used to do is in that, and the people on that show were in that documentary. So not just a goof if you watch it on Disney Plus. And then after that, they had like a quick break, and then they brought out something that was the Disney celebrating the 80s and 90s. And this was very unclear as to what this is. Originally, my wife and I thought it was going to be a party, but it was really just a kind of a Broadway presentation of all of the music from the 80s and 90s. So they had Jodie Benson come out and sing Part of Your World. They had Susan Egan come out and sing Meg's song from Hercules. They had somebody sing a song from Anastasia, now that that's part of the Disney family. And then they had they sang a medley of the Disney Afternoon. That was fun. And they sang the Hocus Pocus song. One of my favorite parts of it, though, was they sang a song from Oliver and Company that's called Once Upon a Time in New York City. And it's so random because most people wouldn't know it, but I'm a huge Huey Lewis fan. And Huey Lewis, not the News, but Huey Lewis sings this song, even though Billy Joel sings Why Should I Worry, and he's the voice of Dodger. This Huey Lewis song is in here, and I love that it's in here, and I love that they performed it. Like, that was so random. It's a Party Get Down, so random. Hopefully that'll get stuck in your head. Then to kind of close it out, they had two different numbers. One was they had Jodie Benson and Susan Egan. They were like, we should sing a song together. And then Susan Egan goes, yeah, let's do Uplifting. And then they sang that sad, sad song, When She Loved Me from Toy Story 2. And it was comedic a little bit, but it's also sad. And there was also, they just nailed it and killed it, and it was awesome. And then they also brought out the entire basically everyone who had been on stage the entire weekend to sing this song from a Goofy movie. So they didn't do Eye to Eye. They didn't do Eye to Eye. I would have loved it if Tevin Campbell was there and they had done Eye to Eye. They didn't even sing it. They just had the whole cast come out and do that. And then they closed it down, and that was it. So that was the end of Destination D23. We went that night. We picked up our magnet and said goodbye to the Boneyard at Animal Kingdom. And then we rushed over to Magic Kingdom and saw Starlight. And yeah, that was it. That was the whole thing. So I don't know if that's what you guys thought it would be. I don't know if that helps you guys to go, hey, am I ever going to try to go to this thing? Back when I first started going to D23 Expo, my kids were little, and I didn't take them because I thought they won't appreciate this because it's a Disney thing, but it's really more of a Disney adults thing. It's really kind of the nostalgia. It's the news. It's the it's the panels and the conversations and the history and all of that stuff. And so I enjoy that greatly, and I enjoy absorbing Disney content in any way, shape, or form while it's out there. So I really had a good time at Destination D23, even though I saw some people, as soon as they saw there was no parks panel, they're like, I'm glad I didn't buy a ticket. Why would you want to go? That's such a small piece of it. It's really more of an experience. And again, it may not be for everybody. If you have a limited amount of vacation time or vacation dollars, you may just want to spend it in the parks. You may not want to go to this. But I enjoy going to these. I enjoy going to D23 Expo, and I enjoy being able to share this with you guys. And hopefully you liked that. If you have, please give us a thumbs up. As it helps people to find these. And don't forget to subscribe to the Park Adventurers Club. That's this channel. We have more content coming up, including Wednesday night, we're going to have a look on the plus side, which is our review show, and we're going to talk about Ice Age with Charlie, our friend who is also, has a archaeology, paleontologist background, and was going to talk about the Ice Age and what it really was. So if you really want to go in depth down the rabbit hole about the Ice Age, he's there for it, and will talk to us about that. And then Friday night, we'll probably have something. We're still trying to figure that out. We always have programming Sunday nights at 8:30 with the Park Adventurers Club. That's our park show. show. Wednesday nights is a look on the plus side, and Friday nights we usually rotate with Castaways, Happiest Days, Hakuna Trivia, and some other content. So we'll have something for you on Friday night as well, and then back Sunday night with another park show. So thank you guys for being here in chat. I see Ronald and Care Bear. Thank you guys for having many conversations, and congratulations for being number 1 and 2. I still don't understand this ranking system. Hopefully that means something. I see Caleb in there. Thank you for being here, and TSN 6899. Thank you for being here as well. And Rebecca, Patrick Warburton. I see that. Wait, he's in Star Tours. Oh yeah, he's. If I don't know if you guys addressed this, but yeah, Patrick Warburton is in Star Tours as you are leaving. Before you get onto your ship, at the very top where the guy's scanning everybody, it's one of those goose droids. He's there, and that's Patrick Warburton in that attraction, which is pretty cool and pretty fun. So Fire Chief, thank you for being here. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but if I did, I apologize. And I see Rob Bazemore dropped in. That was nice. David Long. You guys are great. Thank you for doing this. Hopefully you enjoy this. And if not, let me know that you don't enjoy it. Say, you know what, Rob, this is enough. We don't want stuff like this. But definitely hit me up anytime at, I have an email, rob@parkadventuresclub.com. Email me anytime and let me know if there's something that we could be doing better or something you really love that you'd love to tell us about. And I would love to get your feedback on anything that we're doing. We're still a young channel. We've really only been around for about 5 months at this point. Even though I was doing things before, as the Park Adventures Club, we've really only been around for 5 months, and we've really tried to come out of the gate pushing hard with content. So let us know what kind of stuff you guys like, and leave a comment below, as again, it helps people to find the video. So thank you guys. Hope you had a great night. Sorry for keeping you so late. I was really thinking this would be about 45 minutes. Took a lot longer than that, but I get excited about this kind of stuff. So thank you guys again for hanging out with us, for hanging out with me, and I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you soon.